Welcome to Halloween Daily, Quinn. It is super awesome to be talking to you today about trick or treat.
Oh, it's super awesome to talk to you about trick or treat as well. I always love a topic of conversation.
Well, it is absolutely one of my all-time favorite movies, period, much less Halloween movies. I mean, it is like so many people, it is in our annual October playlist, and it's actually our family's go-to movie on Halloween night after we go trick-or-treating. And pretty much since it's been released every year, we are watching it at least once
Wow.
during the season. So I'm super excited to be having this conversation with you and getting some more insight into what has really become, like I said, just a really perennial favorite for so many families.
Yeah, that's wow, you really summed it up there. That's yeah. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of impact it's had over all this time, and like word of mouth just spreading everywhere, and just every single year there's some sort of like new merchandise or new artwork, and just that's why I love going to conventions so much is
Yeah.
I get to meet all the people who are really, really excited, or they say they've watched it since it came out initially at DVD,
Hmm.
and then some people are like, "Oh, I just watched it last night,"
Hmm.
and my friend told me to because they're coming to this convention, and then they got a ticket, and it's just so cool
And it
the way it
is
works.
a somewhat of a phenomenon that has just kind of grown from the underground up almost,
Mhm.
and it is one of those films. I told you before we started this that it's still amazing to me because to me it's we watch it every year, and but I still will meet people like you say at conventions sometimes who haven't seen it. Maybe they've heard of it or they've seen Sam around and they're like, oh yeah, I've been
Yep.
meaning to watch it. And I'm like, what do you mean you haven't? But I don't think I've talked to anybody that has seen it that didn't like really love it. It's just that good.
Yeah.
Um, Before we talk about Sam, though, let's back up just a little bit and talk a little bit about your brief young life before stepping into this role that would become a Halloween icon. But what are some of your memories of the Halloween holiday itself? You always like to try to find a way into your origin story through the holiday. So growing up, you grew up in British Columbia, is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. Yeah, just in the lower mainland in and around
Okay,
Vancouver. So yeah, that's well, very convenient for me for one, because that's the general location where Trick or Treat and just about all the projects I've been in have filmed is just
nice.
in the lower mainland kind of area. It's really, really convenient. Um, but yeah, I've always loved Halloween. If I never was an actor, I'd definitely be a cosplayer. So
Hmm.
it's just something that was meant to be, I guess. The love of Halloween, the fact I was in living in BC, all these different factors all coming into one, and then of course, just the whole audition process and the the cat that I added in at the very end, talking about how I think Sam would pet a cat and just pick it up and walk off with it. And I think that actually even made it into the movie too, which I thought was a really neat little Easter egg. Thinking back on it, I was like, wait, I did that in the audition, didn't I? Wait, there's a cat in Sam's bag. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
starting to see some artwork of like a black cat in the foreground. There's Sam like reaching after it. It's like cat's out of the bag.
That's wild that you added that into your audition.
I just
Um,
thought it was like one of the coolest little Easter eggs that like I was able to like have that teeny tiny little influence, and it just blossomed like that. It was great.
yeah, and that's one of Sam's earliest scenes too, and one of
Yeah,
those things that, like you
it
said, a
must
lot
have
of
stuck with
fans have
Mike.
latched on to.
Yeah.
I love that. I didn't know that tidbit. Awesome. See, we're learning new facts about this film already. I love it.
Yeah.
So before getting the movie, you said you always loved Halloween growing up.
Oh
You
yeah.
you you have memories even before doing this and before Sam being everywhere of just looking forward to the holiday and trick or treating around the neighborhood and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah. It was always the dressing up and pretending to be a character though, because Lucasfilm was just about my entire childhood. It would be like,
Hmm.
oh yes, a Jedi, or quite a few times Indiana Jones. And I
Yes.
think there's even a couple pictures somewhere on like some old hard drive of me dressed up with the hat and everything. I'm gonna see if I can like post that on Instagram sometime soon. If I can find it, that is. But
Oh yeah.
I just remember just how funny that was. Like,
Is that well? That's one thing we always ask: is what's your favorite Halloween costume that you've worn, and also your favorite Halloween candy?
oh wow, Halloween costume that I wore. There's too many good ones. I remember recently.
Hmm.
I thought yeah, no, the most recent one, not this year, but I think it was last year or the year before. Those years got kind of merged, but uh I did go out as Captain Jack Sparrow, and that was a lot of fun because there was like a I think there was like a local, I think it was like woodworking shop or something, and one of the people had taken like all the different like spare wooden planks and constructed his own custom wooden pirate ship in the lot.
Oh wow.
And he had like all the different like the mast and the everything except for the sails because of course it was on ground. But
Yeah.
um yeah, it was like, oh yeah, $5 you can get your photo taken on there. And of course I go up there and there he is. He's like, oh my god, it's Captain Jack himself. And I actually have a picture of that place in the background of one of my Instagram posts. So it's just sort
Oh
of me
cool.
there as Captain Jack, and then the little pirate ship. It was a really cool event. Like all the illuminated smoke everywhere,
Oh
like the
yeah, yeah.
fog. It's really creepy, really cool.
Oh awesome, awesome. That's a good one. I could kind of see that. I could see you as Captain Jack. Yeah,
I mean, it was something I hadn't done before, so I was like,
yeah.
hey, why not?
Awesome.
But yeah, no,
Um.
when I was a
Yep.
kid, the whole trick or treat, that was Halloween for me, 24/7. The only catch was I only had one costume, but I loved every minute of it
Yeah.
so much. Filming through the winter, I come to set with a little Santa hat with like the attached fake beard, and I call myself Santa Claus and hand out gifts to the
Oh,
crew and stuff.
oh, that is awesome. So
Yeah,
you would actually come to the set with as a version of Sam as Santa, like you said, with the beard and
yeah.
just
I was like in the orange jumpsuit with like the hat and the merged beard. Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And you said it literally was every day Halloween on that set. I'm sure it
Yeah.
was. Um, and I'm sorry. Did you say a favorite Halloween candy?
Oh yeah. No, that
Yeah,
I forgot that
we
part
got
of the
to we got to
question.
get that on. Well, we got to get the favorite Halloween candy on record
Oh
as well.
boy. Yeah, me and favorites. I don't ever have a clear favorite,
Well,
so
you
it
could have
usually
more
just
than one, I
changes all the
guess.
time.
I guess you could have more than one.
Okay. Candy, candy, candy. I haven't eaten candy in a very long time, actually. Ah, you know what? I'll say it's the Holly Ho bar
Hey, there you go.
for relevance sake,
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect, perfect.
But like as actual chocolate bars and stuff that are probably safe to eat, probably like a Milky Way or Mars bar or something like that. The little caramel filled ones.
Yes,
Those ones are probably my favorite.
yeah, you can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
I love those too.
Very nice.
So let's talk a little bit about getting into acting. Was Trick or Treat your first acting, or were you into the to it before then? I mean, how did this begin?
It began when I was about 3 or 4 years old,
Oh wow.
memorizing. I think it was like my bedtime stories. I think one of them was the Lorax. So I just
Okay.
memorized the whole book, and they're like, "Wait, why did you memorize it all?" And I started coming up with my own versions of it, and
Oh
then I
wow.
started reenacting like Star Wars duels, Indiana Jones scenes in the shopping malls. I'd
Yeah.
pretend to be a mannequin behind windows and stuff, and my parents they just could not stand it, and so they're like, "Oh my god, we gotta put him in an acting class or something. He's embarrassing us." No, not actually, but we yeah, it was an acting class. I was like the youngest one of the group, but then of course, uh, who ran the acting class was an agent, and then suggested, "Hey, you could probably go out for commercials and stuff."
Hmm.
And of course, I did. I think it was like the second or third one I went for. It was a Play-Doh commercial, and that happened to be the first thing to put on my resume. I think it was like 5 years old then,
Wow.
something like that. And then it just continued on commercials, commercials.
Hmm.
I got tired of smiling at one point, so then I decided, hey, let's try some TV or something.
Hmm.
I think my um first TV episode was of I was a kid on Terminal City of all TV shows, and I
Yeah.
just sort of sit there with a teddy bear with a broken arm or a splint on the arm, and there's just grunting into the microphone. It's like, "Hi, are you okay?" Oh, I see. And I just put the put my thumb in the guy's eye. And goes, ah, so good. But yeah, no. As far as like movie wise, yes,
Mhm.
Sam is the first. As far as well, lead character as well. The
Yeah.
so, like one
Yeah.
of the main characters of the movie. So
Well,
I was definitely like the first of that.
well, can you walk us through your memories of like the audition process and just learning about this movie? I mean, were you did you know it was gonna be Sam and he was gonna be like the main character in the movie, or was it just kind of auditioning, looking for something different and what's next? How did that begin?
Um, I honestly don't really know for the
Because
most
how
part
old
for
were
that.
you at?
I was like 6,
Okay, yeah,
and
so
then when I was actually filming it, I think I was like 7 years old,
okay,
8 years old almost. Yeah. So that's quite far
yeah,
back there. Just digging in the memory banks really quick. Give me a minute.
yeah, thanks.
Uh, but yeah, I remember it was an audition. I'd done quite a few auditions up until that point, so I was comfortable in the audition room, which is pretty funny. Being like 6 or 7 years old and just comfortable going in there.
Yeah.
They had like the at the time they had like the little cameras, so it's like they'd have like was it a picture of you. You take a picture of you, and then it would like go with your resume, and they'd
Okay.
like sort of staple that together. But they had like the oh god, what are those pictures called? Where they snap it and it literally prints out.
Oh,
You
the
have to leave it.
Polaroids.
Polaroids,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Forgetting the word there.
Yep.
So like we had the Polaroid cameras in the waiting room. We just going in there, and I remember Sam had lines,
Oh,
which
really?
was yeah, it was there were 2 scenes. I think I forget what the first scene was, but the second scene
Okay.
was him walking up towards Mr. Krieg at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
and he's like gonna raise the lollipop to just deliver the final blow, and it was you're supposed to say the sort of jingle is like trick or treat, give me something good to eat. But
Yeah.
of course, me, I was like, oh, he must be a demon, right? So I'm doing like trick or treat. I did get to use that voice later on when I was in Smallville, which is really nice. But yeah, for the most part, it's like, nah, maybe it's creepier if he doesn't say anything at all. But at the very end of that, I did the little mime petting a cat. And it's like, I think Sam would do this, just pick it up and walk away. And apparently that stuck with Mike because
That did. It carried
yeah,
on and it's in his bag and
in his bag, yeah.
um so when you were in that audition, you do remember at that point that it was for Sam and you had an idea that he was
Oh
he
yeah,
was a killer. He was, like a because I
yeah.
was wondering how they
It was mentioned at some point that he was a little bit not
okay.
a goody two shoes, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm. But
I
not
don't
as
remember
bad
what.
as some of the characters in the movie, for
Oh yeah,
sure.
no. Oh, of course not. Yeah,
He's just an enforcer of the rules is all. He's
yeah,
not
but just not all sunshine and rainbows.
sure.
Yeah, maybe.
How did they describe that to you? Like initially, do you remember Michael or your parents or
I
anybody
don't
like
remember. Yeah, I don't
you
remember the original description. I just remember like portraying the character and what I had in my mind, like as the character, and I don't remember
and
how I got there because that's a little too far back.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, I guess age 6, yeah, it's hard for
yeah.
any of us to remember very much about then. What is some of your earliest memories of being on set? Like, do you remember your first memory of being on set?
Actually, I think my first memory was that Play-Doh audition.
Okay.
They had like this weird kind of contraption with Play-Doh, and I'd like put it in there, and then I just squeeze it down, it oozes out the side. I just had fun with it. I didn't have a care in the world. They're like, oh,
Hmm.
we love that. You're hired. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. It just worked out,
Nice.
I guess.
Nice. And
Yeah.
what because everybody's always so curious. about specific scenes and stuff. Like, do you remember? I love one of those early scenes of Sam when he's behind the trick or treaters at Mr. Wilkins' door,
Oh yeah,
and then he walks away, and you hear the cat, but you don't see him at first, and it's kind of revealed, and you get one, and
I
just how you
love
kind
doing
of
that.
just grabbed it and snatched it and all. What can you remember about shooting that scene?
I remember how I loved being like the little quiet one that you don't notice, and then just
Yeah,
like sort of creepily drifting in and out of like wherever I'm at. The whole snatching it
yeah,
from the bucket. I think I initially did it as like a really creepy kind of slow motion kind of thing,
hmm
but it didn't quite fit. So, well, there's only so much I can really tell through the burlap sack, so
yeah.
I had to really rely on what other people were saying
hmm
because I couldn't see much. But yeah, no, I think it was. I remember it being too many takes, and then it was just snatch it and run away.
hmm
But yeah, just making sure not to fall down the stairs because I have to somehow remember how how wide each step is so I don't overstep.
Well, I guess you would have to, yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean that'd be
took a lot of
hard for
practice.
an adult to do with the mask and everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you really did have to think about that at the time. Was that was that the most challenging thing? What was your
Oh,
most challenging scene that you remember working on?
it was of course the walking towards Krieg in a menacing
Okay.
way because I was completely blind. So
Oh
there were
man.
multiple heads that I got to wear as
Yeah.
Sam. So there's like the burlap sack, which was more or less like kind of like a scuba helmet design, where it's
Okay.
just a bubble, and I have
Yeah.
this little slit here and a slit here so I can breathe, but I could see through both. And then they have a layer of burlap over that, so it's like looking through a really thick pillowcase, I guess,
Okay.
through two little slits about yay big.
Wow.
That is what my visibility was, and of course I could not tell what direction audio was coming from because it would just sort of echo in there
hmm
somewhat. So I had to calibrate myself for that a little bit, I guess, which is actually a really fun challenge to overcome. But yeah, that was the easiest I had it for Sam. Those
Wow.
were for like the wide shots, single layer burlap. For the close ups, double layer burlap. So it was like looking through two bed or not
Oh.
bed pillowcases, something like that. But yeah, just sort of linen or burlap, and yeah, that was a lot of that was made a lot more tricky to overcome
hmm
because all of the shots were done at nighttime.
Yeah. So on top of everything, it's
Yeah,
dark and
it's
and
dark.
yeah,
Yeah, I
let's
had
make
to
it as
like in some cases I had to like run across the street. I had to count how many steps before I get to the curb so that I could, not stub my toe and just go
oh man.
onto
I
the.
mean, were they there helping you think of it? Like you have to count these steps and
Oh no, no, I just sort of
so that
figured
was just you
most of
figuring
that
it
on
out.
my own. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Well, sometimes I think I can spot it like every once in a while. I can tell when I'm like doing a safe run. So it's like
Oh really?
if I do trip with one of my feet, I definitely have a like my other legs ready to like catch me.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I'm walking in a very peculiar manner. It's like, hey, that's why. But no, for the when the mask comes off, there's a whole pumpkin head underneath.
hmm
There's like a whole animatronic face, so I can't see through that. It's completely blinding. So that was very interesting. I could actually get some directional uh audio from that though. It wasn't super echoey because it was like right up to the ears. But yeah, no, that was come to my voice, and there I am walking menacingly, slowly.
hmm
I'm just making sure that my arms aren't going like that. So I
Yeah.
think if you rewatch the movie and think of like instead of reaching up and going to stab, like I know what I'm doing.
hmm
That's where all the acting was in that.
Yeah.
It was all in like making sure I'm not like gonna trip over something. There was a lot of uh well, there was definitely trust involved because I couldn't see jack shit.
Yeah.
But also like the practice, I was able to figure out like what area was, clear. So I was like, okay, how many steps, how wide are the steps, of just all of these things I'm thinking of while I'm doing that menacing walk. So it's, well, I wouldn't say no to another role like that because that was a lot of fun to, do all that.
Oh, I mean, it sounds fun, but it sounds, I mean, that's fascinating to me that you at that young age, you say you were about 6 or 7 at this time when they were shooting, and you just took it upon yourself to say, I've got to memorize these steps, I've got to be able to do this, and like you said, I mean, that's a lot going on, a lot to ask of any
Oh,
performer, I think, much less
well,
a
it's
7-year-old.
of course there were like, precautions and safety measures in place
Sure.
where it's like, I think there's a part where we're at like the rock quarry and it's like an actual quarry.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put like a wire harness on me to make sure I didn't get too close to the cliff because that would have been no. But yeah, there were a whole bunch of safety precautions. Was like, you know, um, like the first try of certain scenes, it'd be like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'd sort of go through it slowly and be like, okay, you want me here, and then you want me there, and then just sort of speed it up over time. So that would, know, get to where I needed to go and make sure there's like no obstructions, like some giant branch on the ground or something. Just get tangled in that. Imagine.
Yeah, yeah. So and I've always wondered that too, if there were other scenes where like it was stand-ins or stunt doubles and like how much of like the unmasked stuff is actually you under there. But you're saying a lot of that was actually you, even
Um,
when it's the unmasked animatronic. You were wearing that for a lot of that?
when the initial reveal happened,
Hmm.
that was not me
Okay.
because it was technically in a fight and they didn't want a 7-year-old fighting an old
Yeah.
man. Uh, but yeah, no, with like the whole uh with the staircase scene where Krieg's looking up the stairs, he flicks on the light and the bulb just shatters. That's me running up there, which is a lot of fun. I really
Nice.
enjoyed doing that.
Hmm.
Feels like I did that yesterday. I can remember it so well. But yeah, no, the other time where it wasn't me was um when Sam is crawling on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Just something didn't sit right with the cast and crew of having a 7-year-old climbing on the ceiling. Because what if he falls, right? I
Yeah.
don't think any amount of padding is going to help that.
Right.
So yeah, of course it makes sense that would be the you know time for a stunt double. But yeah, for the most part, it is me under there, which is really fun. Running
That
around,
is
scaring people.
Well, and I just always love the creative decision to hire someone your age to play Sam because
Yeah,
they could have had a small person, a small stunt person, and an adult person who was very they could have kind of
yeah, I
faked their
think
way through it, but I think I've always loved that decision that they
yeah,
got an actual young person
yeah.
to play this character because you can't really act the way you do. You're just doing some things the way a young person does it that is
Mm.
just different than the way adults do sometimes.
Yeah, like the mannerisms, right? I think
Yes.
Mike actually touched on that in another interview a while ago, where it
Yeah.
was talking about like the reason why he chose a child rather than is it's all about the mannerisms, right? And like, you don't work on the mannerisms; they just sort of are there. So like
Yeah.
all the things you don't even think about, emulating as a child is like, well, the child just sort of does it.
He's gonna. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
my peculiar walk some of the times.
Yeah. Well, it just adds to Sam's mystique, I think, in a lot of ways. And I love that scene, with the flaming jack-o'-lantern behind
Oh,
you
yeah.
and kind of doing the Michael Myers head tilt for a minute there. And I mean, I love that moment. Do you remember shooting that? What and what that was like? And
Oh yeah.
can you walk us through that a little bit?
I'm pretty sure there was like a countdown
Mm-hmm.
and they even said like fire in the hole
Mm-hmm.
before they did the the
Before it
pumpkin
really lit
stuff.
up,
Yeah,
yeah.
where it's just like I think that was in a studio environment too. I think because there were also on location times quite a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
but I think for that they were in the studio.
Okay.
I would hope so as well because that would
Yeah.
be pretty close to a house fire.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, yeah. Okay. Yeah, using my memory, but now I gotta like use some logic to make sure that I'm not say something stupid, like, "Oh yeah, no, they lit a pumpkin and and sort of almost exploded it out the top with all the inferno coming out the top." Yeah, in a house. Well, what about
Mm.
the neighbors? Oh, they weren't informed, you know. Just
Yeah.
imagine that on the news. It's like, oh yeah, what happened to these houses? What happened to this block? Oh,
What a
someone lit a pumpkin on fire. What? Oh
filming a
yeah, and I
Halloween
think
movie.
yeah, we were like filming through December and January, I believe, as well. So there was snow on the ground. So a couple of photos from a long time ago with me in my snow boots and orange jumpsuit, which is pretty funny. But yeah.
Do you remember? I mean, it sounds like you had a pretty good grasp on what was going on at even at that age. You had
Oh yeah.
been acting and doing work on some of these sets, even though not this big. But like working with that scene, even on the set with the controlled fire and everything, and here you're in the mask that you've got to rise up and walk and do the head tilt and all that. I mean, again, I'm just thinking that's a lot that's going on in your brain, or is it? Do you recall it being, or
Um,
just?
I think
I'm
a
just.
couple of times, I'm not even sure which scenes it was, but like sometimes, because I wouldn't really know what was going on around me
Hmm.
sometimes, sometimes I would just have to get like an audible cue where it's like, okay, now go to the next step, and I'd like have all the different steps. So it's
Hmm.
like, okay, step one, step two, kind of thing. Just
I got you.
yeah, but sometimes I would be able to like intuit if you know I had my sensory functions working,
Hmm.
like being able to
And
see and all that.
hmm and Sam, I mean, sometimes he's more of an observer in some of these stories, and of course, the two where he's more a direct participant is the first and the last.
Yeah.
The Mr. Krieg story, of course, and then, but I love that first story too.
Hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about filming that? And because that's one of the first, or it is the only time in the movie where we really see Sam doing the dirty work himself
Oh yeah.
and taking out somebody that breaks one of the rules. Um, I imagine that was probably kind of fun for you, given
Oh
what
yeah.
you've already told us. Can you talk about shooting that sequence?
Oh yeah. Um, so for quite a bit of it, it was kind of like he's a apparition of sorts, where it's like she throws the sheet into the box, and
Hmm.
then the box springs up. Of course, that I don't think I could fit in there, but
Hmm.
yeah, even at the time. But
Hmm.
yeah, no. Once there was the whole under the sheet struggle, where
Hmm.
she's going like this and like holding onto the arms. I'm like, oh, I'm not actually like forcing anything. I'm just like there and I'm along for the ride.
I gotcha.
I just thought that was pretty neat. Well, at the time, because I was like, oh, here we go.
And yeah, you're there, and she's reacting
Yeah,
as if you're the attacking, and you're just like you said, going along for the ride, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
kind
thought
of,
that
kind
was
of an
really
early experience in how stunt work works, I guess.
mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remembered now.
Hmm.
Once there was the struggle, and then of course like goes past the gate, and there's the two figures under the sheets, and then you see like this blood splatter on the inside.
Yeah.
I think I could be wrong about this, but I'm remembering it, which isn't very accurate because the human memory, human
Mm.
brain,
Yeah.
and especially so long ago. But I
Sure.
think it was one of the makeup department or special effects makeup that had like a little bottle of red, like the liquid blood, and then did the motion
Oh,
and like squeezed it at the same time, which got the desired
got the
effect.
spray. Yeah.
Yeah, because of course specializes in that department, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened. I could be wrong though. It's pretty cool though to think of,
Yeah.
all the little ways that the cast and crew just sort of come together to make the finished project. It fascinates me.
Oh, it is fascinating, like you said, to think of, like you said, all those different pieces that come together to create the vision of this character, and that even just that slice and that particular spray and how it hit, coming so early in the movie, it really kind of sets that tone of like, okay, this is gonna
Oh
be
yeah.
fun and kind of funny, but it's also gonna hit that horror note
Yeah.
when it wants to, and it does quite a few times in the movie.
Mm. All right.
So, and again, Sam gets his hands a little bloody in that scene, and
I do remember the corpse dragging part immediately after that.
yeah,
I remember there was like some sort of rig set up because the figure that's supposed to drag the larger figure, there's no way that can happen. So to show off the supernatural strength, they set up like some sort of wire rig, which is pretty cool. Pretty funny as well to see that in the works at the time. It's like, wow, that person's really strong. Using practical for that is just great.
well, yeah, we watch it and we just accept it because all of
Oh
a
yeah.
sudden, okay, this little guy Sam, we don't know
Oh yeah.
anything about him, but we're just accepting and going
He's
along
able
for
to
the
move a
ride. But
full-sized
yeah,
adult corpse now. It's like that's crazy.
but yeah, that would be a little impossible for them to ask you to do. But was that really you under there going
Oh,
through it
for
with the
like the
rig, or
dragging?
they had to? Yeah,
No, I think they had to get someone stronger than I.
they
Because
probably had
even with the
to.
rig, yeah.
Even with the rig, they had to
Yeah.
have. Yeah,
Yeah,
I imagine that would have been.
I think that was stunt double for that.
Yeah.
Unless yeah, no, I think it was. I can't remember some of these things, some of the details. Because like there's the things that you really remember, and then there's the stuff that's like, oh yeah, who did that?
Mm-hmm.
Or which yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of fun stuff to go and dig around in there. So I might even
I'm
have
sure.
like some uncovered memories. One of these days I'll be like, oh my god, I remember how they did this or that with practical
Mm-hmm.
effects or something.
Mm-hmm.
Be pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool.
You'll have to put it all in a book one day.
Yeah, yeah. Here I am at 23, and I'm starting to get nostalgic.
And you're
So
already.
bad.
Well, I think again in your defense, I mean it is a young age for anybody at any age to think back to 6, 7, 8 years old. Even it's very young for everybody in reality, of course. Um, Now Sam he pops up in a lot of these other stories, maybe not as much of an active character, but he just kind of shows up and is an observer sometimes and making
Oh
sure
yeah.
that the rules are being followed. Um, do you remember being there for those scenes and
Oh
having
yeah.
any interaction? Like I love when you see Rhonda after her sequence, and that's another one of my favorite characters in the movie. And do you remember shooting that and have any memories of what that was like?
Oh yeah, that was the rock quarry. And oh
Yeah,
my, was it so incredibly cold. I'll say that.
yeah.
So yeah, I ended up wearing like whole thermal everything under there. So that was well, I remember it was cold, but I will say I remember every single scene where I
Hmm.
was standing there ominously because I fucking love doing that.
Yeah.
Because people are like, okay, you can stop now, and there I am just sort of
Hmm.
staring still.
So even on the day
uh,
at the time, you were
even
just
on the day of the
you were
time.
loving being
Oh yeah.
stalkery, spooky Sam.
Yeah, yeah. I was totally a character.
Yeah.
I love doing that. Actually, I really enjoyed the flashback part of like the school bus scene where
Yeah.
you just see the school bus go by and there's Sam
Yes.
poking a dead bird with a stick. I
Yes.
just I just love uh that and just sort of how it conveys the timelessness of Sam.
Yes.
And it's like, what was he doing during that time, right? Who are his potential victims in that year, right?
Hmm.
Or the year before or after that? Because you see the school bus driver being as
Hmm.
old as he is in present day. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and Sam doesn't change, and
Oop,
at least that we can tell, he doesn't change. He's just there apparently every year, just taking care
yeah,
of business and making sure business goes as it should for Halloween, which we can
exactly.
respect and appreciate, of course.
Hmm.
And I love that scene too. That he's there, and you're right. It does clue people in that yeah, this is a timeless character. This is kind of
Yeah.
the spirit of Halloween that's going to be popping up, and And yeah, the whole dead bird part too is
Yeah,
just so grim and macabre and awesome.
yeah, yeah. He's just that character, to be poking some dead thing with a stick is great. But I'm also kind of interested, because the sequel is in early active development right now. That's
Yes.
like all I know. So you'd have to like reach out to Mike, who's actually,
Yeah.
writing it, to hear anything more on that. But yeah, it's gonna be very exciting to know that there's a there's a second one on the way.
Yes.
And well, just like the I guess the era, or like the time shift between, well, in the past, like what happened with Sam there in the flashback, uh, because in the present day of the movie, being like
Mm-hmm.
2008, 2009,
Mm-hmm.
2007, people only had access to certain, you know, technology. They didn't
Right.
have, say, smartphones or anything like that.
That's
They didn't
right.
have, all the different digital things, and oh, they have like a GPS tracker on their phone or something. It's like, oh, where'd my friend go? Oh, let's find their phone or something. Leads them out to like some cornfield somewhere.
Yeah.
That could be some potential creepy stuff to see in the second one. I'd imagine
Oh,
that would be pretty cool stuff. Because like also, if you like go back in time as well,
yeah.
there's also like, um well, like, how would people get a hold of you? No one had cell phones back then.
That's right.
It'd be like, oh, they call your house and the landline. It's like, oh, have you seen this person? Like, no, no, I haven't. So it's very more, or much more like mysterious. Like, you're not keeping constant tabs on everybody, messaging them all the time. I think there's just different flavors of horror to be had in both directions, just because
Oh,
the
absolutely.
differences in technology. Yeah.
And yeah, I've thought about that too, of the different directions that are possible that they could take with a sequel, and the different approaches, like you said, whether it's moving forward in time and real years, or back in
Yeah.
time, or even more of that same night, even with other characters for all we know. I mean, that I've
Oh yeah.
and I've even thought, maybe the way to go is to have all new characters and all new stories that we didn't see, and just kind of have Sam be the link, appearing as he does, and or
Oh yeah.
maybe bring back some of the characters
Yeah.
and check in on them later on.
Oh
I
yeah.
again, I love the character of Rhonda. I think of the character of Lori as well.
Mm,
And uh little Billy Wilkins, I think what's he up to 15, 20
exactly.
years down the road, all of those characters I think could be fun to possibly revisit.
Or
Um
in my imagination, I was like, wait, I'm probably too old and too tall to play Sam again, right? Without, using some Hobbit magic from the Lord of the Rings films. But yeah, no, there was another character I played in Trick or Treat. What if he
yes.
grew up?
Yes,
That would
there we
be a
go.
very interesting role to play, just
Yes,
as a possibility.
I totally agree. I was actually going to say that yes. I imagine they would probably and wisely want to cast another 8-year-old or 7-year-old in as Sam, I would think, and probably rightly so. But yeah, you played Peeping Tommy in the costume shop in the beginning. That was your other role, like you said. And I was thinking about that, but when we were scheduling this, I was like, that would be awesome to bring you back, and yeah, maybe not reprise Sam, but reprise your other character. And I
Oh,
even
yeah.
think that we should see him, find him at the same place doing the same thing. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? It'll still
And
be
then of course he gets in
Halloween,
trouble with Sam and dies to Sam,
right?
right?
Yeah, that would be so poetic, right? That would be
Yeah.
awesome. Maybe he works there now, and he's the one that goes, and yeah, like you said,
Oh
something happens, and
yeah, he
um,
breaks the rules.
yes, yes. I think that would be so awesome. And that's so funny that you said that as well. And you were already one step ahead of me. But yeah, there we go, Michael. There's one of the acts in the new
Oh,
sequel. I think that
oh
would be
dear.
awesome. But well, and I guess while we're talking about the sequel, I would ask this too, because again, thinking that, let's assume they are going to hire a young person, 7, 8,
Okay.
9 years old, to play Sam. what advice would you, as the only person to do it in a feature film so far, what advice would you give to that young person, whoever they may be?
Oh wow. Um, I think probably the most useful advice I'd say it would be um to really practice on being able to run around with limited or no senses.
Mhm.
So like you can't see, you can't hear, or
Yeah.
just you can barely see, you can barely hear. Um, which takes a lot of, you know, I not really kind of practice, but then also kind of like you also have to be ready to really overcome that challenge because this is a pretty tall one.
Yeah.
So like move as though you can see when you can't really see or just can't see at all outright.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the biggest hurdle I ever had with the role. So yeah, that would be my advice. Is just train up on that.
Yes. Good advice. There you go. There you go.
Well, that
And
goes for all the cosplayers as well.
there, take
Yeah,
note,
yeah, they
guys.
know that they know in a struggle. Yeah,
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I imagine they do. You're right. And
they
that's another thing.
they're probably also very familiar with the overheating problem
Yes.
because every single time I put on that costume, I'm always out in like almost sub-zero Celsius weather, where it's like almost snow on the ground. So I kept warm. So if
Yeah.
you're going to a convention, oh boy, that's gonna overheat like no tomorrow.
That is so funny. Hearing that when you were filming over Christmas, that you were as Sam coming in and handing out Christmas treats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What are some of the other funnier memories that you remember? Like, what's your funnest memory from set?
Um, well, Mike did get me to do the whole red rum thing. So I
Ah,
started doing that to everybody. Their reactions priceless. Uh
I bet.
yeah, running around as Sam was another thing. But um besides that, well there were other pranks going on because just people pranking other people.
Hmm.
It was a whole blast to be had. But no, just knowing that there were so many pranks going on with other people,
Hmm.
just it was a lot of it was a joy to be a part of that, cast and crew. So that whole environment was good.
And of course, part of the magic of the film, I mean, the whole thing's magic, if you ask me, but part of it is that amazing cast. I mean, in addition to
Yeah.
yourself, there are just some really amazing cast members, many of which have become even bigger household names since the film. And did you have much interaction with your co-stars, being as young as you were, and I guess you were the youngest one of the whole cast. I mean,
Oh yeah.
did you get to interact much with the werewolves or any of those school bus massacre kids or any of those guys
I
off when
Yes.
the cameras weren't rolling?
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
can't remember for the life of me about like what we were talking about, but I know of course that it was, probably on the superficial side of things because I was young at the time. I can't really have a super deep conversation with them. So um yeah, that it was a joy to meet them all though, because I think I recognized at the time I recognized Dylan Baker from Spider-Man 2.
Ah,
So I
yes.
was like, oh my God, Principal Wilkins,
Yes.
or
Yes.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
it was good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very interested to see what the lineup of cast is going to be for the sequel. That's going to be very, very interesting to see.
Yes, and Michael, like you said, I mean, we're recording this, it's November of 2022, and just last year. Well, before we get to that, let me back up just a minute because
Right?
when you wrapped the film, of course, it wrapped in was going to be released in '07, and then it got shelved for a while, for a couple of
Yeah.
years. And I remember the DVD finally came out in '09. I remember going out getting it right away because there had been this trailer that had been out for a while now, and it was on some of the other DVDs that Warner Brothers had put out. So it was kind of out there in the horror community, like known, and I think it had played maybe some festivals probably. But general public like myself, we had not seen it, and I remember getting the DVD and like I said, watching it pretty much every October since then. But
Well, it did finally get a theatrical release.
and yes, now
So
all these years later,
Yeah.
15 years later, in October of 2022, it did finally have its theatrical release and played
Mhm.
in theaters. So, what was it like for you first as a kid when it didn't get released? Because did you feel disappointed, or had you already kind of mentally moved on to the next thing?
Oh no,
Because
I was sort of overhearing like the story of like what was happening with it.
okay,
It aimed for a theatrical release, I believe. But it was like, Warner Brothers, and then they decided to call themselves Warner Premiere at the time, or
yeah,
something was going on there, so that was a contributing factor. Another thing was there was some uh, stigma about the fact that kids were killed in the movie, not directly, but sort of implied that they died.
right,
So that also didn't quite sit well at the time. But
hmm,
nowadays, anything goes into theater, so it's
yes,
like, okay, yeah, perfect time, go to theater.
yeah,
And with also like all uh the growing fan base for the movie that's just constantly growing, it's probably one of the best times to actually put it in a theater, I'd say. But also, since it didn't get the theatrical release, then yeah, of course, Mike took it upon himself to take to all these festivals and
yeah,
screenings and stuff. And I think when I was like 8 or 9, I walked the black carpet at one of these
yeah,
festivals. So that was really something, a unique experience. Nothing like that has happened since. A black carpet, red
yeah.
carpet, maybe, like black carpet. That was very interesting.
Was that the first time you saw it, or when was the first time you saw the finished film yourself?
um, oh, you're saying the finished film in its entirety,
Yes.
or all but the werewolf scenes?
Well, you could tell us about both. How about that?
Okay, yeah. As soon as I got my hands on the DVD, which was like, well, when it came out on DVD,
Hmm.
yeah, I watched just about everything except for the werewolf scenes.
Yep.
And then I finally, got to a certain age. I'm like, hey, now I'm gonna see what I wasn't allowed to see before.
Yes. Yes.
And yes, well, I think just for that reason alone, an interesting storyline to me
Hmm.
is that one, because
Yes.
of the fact that I've seen all the other ones more times than that one. So that's the freshest storyline, relatively speaking, which is kind of strange, but it is what it is.
That's the one that's newest to you,
Yeah, it's the newest one now.
because you hadn't seen for a while. Um, do you
Yeah.
remember shooting that one? Because that's another scene that Sam's there, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's one of the most memorable scenes in the film for sure.
Yeah, it was great. When I was sitting there, I was sitting there on the log, just with my
Yeah,
little hands like this, and just sort of watching these werewolves in like their full like practical
yeah,
effects, everything, just chowing down. And there I am, just sort of watching this happen. I'm like, ah, yes, good doggies.
yeah. That's it. And yeah, you're just taking
Oh,
it
yeah.
in. And again, I love that it was actually you there under the mask, sitting there watching the scenes. I love that the
Yeah.
werewolves were practical like they were.
Mm.
But
I
again, they
think
could
there's
have.
even a picture of me like actually petting one, like sitting on the log, and then one actually came right there, and I just pet it.
That's awesome.
It is a really awesome photo. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, that's that's really cool.
Mm.
So, like we've said, now it's been 15 years. The film did
Yes.
hit DVD in '09. It's had a Blu-ray release. It's come out. Um, when did you start to notice that Sam was becoming an icon? Was really starting to become something big? Because it again, it was kind of a quiet release in '09. I think us
Mhm.
horror fans knew about it and were excited like as soon as it came out. I know I was aware of it, from like Bloody Disgusting and places like that.
Yep.
But I think general audiences, like we said, some of them are still catching up, but it's kind of grown. And of course, now with this theatrical release and all the merch and everywhere, it's bigger than ever. But when did you start to realize that, oh, this character I played is kind of a big deal?
Well, being a child at the time, I wasn't too in touch with a lot of things. So anything I heard was kind of through my parents.
Yeah.
And it kind of sort of took me by surprise. I think it was end of '09 or 2010, sometime around then. I actually was told, hey, you can go to a convention for this. It's like, a convention? What? And then it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, you go here. There's an offer and this and that and the other thing.
Hmm.
Okay, sure, I'll go there. And that was my first convention. I think it was I keep remembering it or misremembering it as like 2012, 2013, but no,
Hmm.
it's like 2010, 2011, I think.
Oh
Where
wow.
I went to my first convention, Cincinnati, Ohio Horror
Hmm.
Hound. And
Nice.
I know that I figured out when it was, like the actual date, because I finally looked at like the old date records and stuff. And I was like, okay, I keep misremembering it as like 2012 or something. When was it? It was like somewhere between '09 and 2011. You
Oh
know,
wow.
it was really early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that happened, and there were a whole bunch of people saying hi. I'm like, wow, I love
Mhm.
this. I just
Yeah.
want to,
Yeah.
celebrate the movie with these people. So just I kept going to more and more. And
Yeah.
by 2013, it was October 2013, coming up on Halloween. It was Mike Doherty's birthday. And there was a screening at the Egyptian Theater in California. Seth Green hosted a panel with other cast members and Mike and myself, and we're just asking questions. It was such a fucking good experience, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
I
was
bet.
great. And of course, that's when Trick or Treat 2 was originally greenlit.
Yes.
I say
Yes.
originally greenlit because it was originally greenlit and then something happened. There was a lot of downtime, and now it's greenlit in early active development. So the wait is over, I think.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. And yeah, we
The
can't
waiting
wait.
for the wait is over.
Yes. Now the real waiting begins, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we were thrilled to hear that news that Michael was at one of the screenings last month, and he
Oh,
did
nice.
say
Yep.
publicly that yeah, they are back in active development on a sequel, and what shape that'll take, who knows? Um,
Ooh.
what did you have hopes of what it would be aside from reprising Peeping Tommy? We gotta see that, um, but beyond that, what do you hope to see in a sequel?
I well, it goes back to what I know of Trick or Treat being that it's Mike Doherty's baby.
Yeah.
I think, this is an old memory. I hope I get it right. It was he was going through, I think it was animation school, and he did this animation of Sam. It's like the earliest of early concept art for Sam, where he's got like a button eye and like a triangle hole
Mhm.
in the second. You've seen this, I imagine.
I think I've seen it on the bonus features. I think they've got
Yes.
it included on there. Yes.
Yeah, so that was before 2007, before I don't remember which year it was, but it was like very, very long ago.
Yeah.
And then that turned into his movie, and he chose me of all people to be Sam, which was an honor. Um, then yeah, I just have the same hopes for the sequel, that it is something that he can be proud of, like the first
Yeah.
one was. So
Yeah.
yeah, as long as it's uh, as long as it sits well with him when it
Hmm.
releases, because there have been a couple movies in the past. Well, not oh Jesus, just in general, there have
Yeah.
been some movies here or there where it's like, oh yeah, the sequel was different than the first movie or something like that.
Sure.
I really hope it goes well for him. So
Yeah.
best wishes, Michael.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you said you really realized that it had taken off and Sam was taking on a life of his own when you got invited to that first convention and then also going to that screening on Michael's birthday in 2013 and just getting a taste of it yourself firsthand and really feeling that fan reaction there. So now
Yeah,
you've been to some conventions over the years and you've watched this thing continue to grow. I mean, when it comes to the merch, I was trying to count
oh
all of
yeah,
our figures and stuff. I think we've got, if I counted right, like 14, but that's just like Funkos and NECAs and statues and stuff. That's not including like masks and t-shirts and posters. And so I don't even know how many. Yeah, I mean, we've got plushes, we've got the inflatable. I mean, there's so much out there, and there's so much just every year more and more. It seems like in the last 5 years or so, it's really exploded, like with the
oh yeah,
licensing.
oh, especially
Um,
with Spirit Halloween. It used to
Yes,
be that you couldn't find anything Sam related or trick or treat related in there whatsoever. And now it's
yeah,
like a whole section of the store.
it really is. And they put
Walked
out
in there
that
one day,
life
I was like,
size
whoa,
animatronic
yeah,
and
crazy.
and more stuff. I love that now they're even making the masks for the school bus massacre kids. They've
Mm,
started doing like a couple of those each year. So I love that they're
yeah,
even branching out, you know,
yeah.
and hitting
All
a
the
few of
different
the other
storylines.
costumes. Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're gonna do like a robot costume from the first storyline. If you remember that, like, or just
Yes.
the pair of them, it would be like a couple's outfit, what
Oh,
they're
I
wearing.
didn't think about that, but you're right. Oh,
Well, talking
see,
about
we're
branching off different characters, right?
yeah, we're giving Spirit some great ideas there. There you
Oh,
go. That's like
there you go, Spirit.
that's a
Yeah.
winner. That's a couple's costume right there. That is I didn't think about that, but you're totally right. I mean, there's so much they could do.
Yeah.
But so so do you have any of these collectibles? I know fans have probably given you stuff over the years, but
Oh
do you
yeah.
have some of these Sam figures on your shelf like we do?
Oh yes, I do have a shrine. It's in my garage.
Yes.
I'm upstairs in my room right now, but there's a section of our garage where it's like this gigantic vertical sort of glass cabinet that has like
Oh,
all the
that's awesome.
different little things and just sort of mementos from conventions in general, really.
Yeah.
So actually, I've yet to put this in there, but this is my Horror Hound guest badge
Oh,
that's just on my
nice.
desk here still. But yeah, it's another thing that's going to go in that cabinet. Just
Oh,
all
that
the different things. It's becoming a Sam shrine, and it's going to overflow soon. So
wow.
with every year, there's new merch, new unique stuff. I haven't put this one in there because I think this is like a unique,
Yeah.
one of a kind Sam voodoo doll.
Oh,
I don't
nice.
want anything to happen to that
Yes, you
because
might want to keep that one close to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
if
Mhm.
anything happens to that, oh boy, what could happen?
That's awesome. And I imagine you probably do get a lot of cool custom made stuff from fans, like custom art and stuff appearing at the
Yeah,
conventions.
yeah. Sometimes they just sort of drop it off and run away before I can say anything. It's kind of, well, I'd at least like to say thank you for
Yeah.
for that, but you know.
Do you have a favorite piece of Sam merch that you've seen?
Um, I will say the recent there are quite a few good lollipops that I've seen. Like,
Ah,
because I
yes.
really remember that thing. I had held that thing in my hand for like months, so I
Yeah.
really know the ins and outs of it. The one that says like legendary on the back, where it's got like one side that looks like the lollipop, and the other side it's just sort of blank.
Yeah.
If it wasn't blank on the other side, it would be just like the original thing. It's got
Oh,
like the
okay.
same uh stick length and like the crescent. It's actually a little bit of an improvement because it's got some indenting in it. The original one, it was just sort of a flat surface with like black um uh not paint or tape. It was like I don't know the material. I was young at the time, I couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But so there you go, guys. That's the most screen accurate one so far from
As far as the one that I've seen, yeah.
yeah, that you've held and what you remember holding on set. That one fits the mold the best.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Nice, nice, awesome. See that helps everybody in their cosplay to know which
Exactly.
one you feel like feels the most authentic. And yeah,
Mhm.
they can fix that blank side. There's
Oh yeah.
artists out there. They can make that right in no time.
Hmm. Very cool.
Absolutely.
Uh-oh.
So, you have done some other projects since Trick or Treat, and I know some of them
Oh
have
yeah.
been kind of notable, like the Man in the High Tower, and some other notable projects that our audience might know. Um, what did you learn from Trick or Treat that you've carried on into these projects since as a performer?
Um, Most notably, the little movements and the
Yeah,
very slightest of like subtle mannerisms and stuff.
yeah,
That's what Trick or Treat taught me because it's it's the subtleties. I'll just say that. In
yeah.
summary, the subtleties, like the minor head tilt and all that, it just goes so far because no words are really spoken. Um, yeah, no, I actually prefer roles where I get to use like the whole, subtle motions and stuff
Hmm.
rather than saying something, just because it's, well, a place that I've practiced a lot in because
Yeah.
of Trick or Treat. But then it's just got like a different feel to it, which is nice. But not saying I don't like lines. Because
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
have been some pretty cool well, I say auditions and stuff where it's just like monologues and stuff, but yeah, just in general, I think yeah, the Trick or Treat with like all the subtleties. I really love doing that.
Hmm. Yeah. And I guess that would be something that, at such a young age, it would be something hard to maybe grasp for a young person. So the fact that you got it so young, it would carry through, and something that you could really appreciate and apply, as a young adult, and moving forward in your career.
Hmm.
um do you have any current or upcoming projects that we can look forward to seeing you in that we can talk about?
Yes, I do. Right before a um certain event hit, I just finished filming my first superhero movie,
Oh,
which is an
wow.
independent film, and it's superhero mixed with anime, which
Oh,
is
cool.
very interesting. I got to
Yeah.
speak my first Japanese lines on screen. So there I
Awesome.
am speaking another language for another thing. It's a
Very
first.
cool.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. The premise is two Japanese or Japan obsessed teenagers living in Oklahoma in 1999 acquire a bootleg anime. They watch it, and by watching it, they gain superpowers and they have to save the world before the end of the millennium. So it's a little goofy, but it's
Yeah,
really, really well. There's a lot of fun to film,
I bet.
and yeah, that was that was a lot of fun. Even meeting Billy Zane was a part of it.
Oh, cool.
If you ever watched Farscape, Ben Browder, that
Oh,
was a hell
nice.
of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that was right before a certain event hint.
Yes.
So that became available for streaming, I believe, in October, or yeah, I believe in October. It's on just about every streaming service. You can sort of rent it, all that. But
Okay. And what's that one called? Did you say?
it was called EK Boys.
Okay. Okay.
So IKE with the little thing over it, and then Boys.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Awesome.
Other than that,
Hmm.
there's a season 2 of a series called Firefly Lane that is coming out December 2nd, I believe. Maybe it's the 3rd, beginning of December. I'll say
Okay.
that. So, yes, that's another series that I was part of.
Awesome. Look
Second
forward
season.
to look forward to checking you out in those projects. Absolutely.
Oh yes, Firefly Lane. I was set in the 1970s, so it's like
Hmm.
1974 and all that. So I didn't have the hair length at the time, so they just sort of put a gigantic wig on me. So I have this wig mullet and wearing the 70s clothes. It was pretty fun to do that. And I'm kind of crossing off a list now where it's like, what decade have I done? So Man in the High Castle, like you mentioned earlier, that was an alternate 1960s, but
Yeah.
still wearing vintage 1960s clothes. So I
Yeah, that's
cross
right.
that off. Yeah. And here's the 1970s, cross that off. Superhero movie took place in the late 1990s. There's a 90s, cross it off.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
hitting every decade, right?
Just cross it off all the different decades, all the different eras.
Perfect.
I'd be very interested in doing some 80s. That would be pretty cool. Or early
I
2000s, because that's apparently a bit back in time now. God, I feel old.
Yeah, I know. Hey, you're telling me. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
you're a young man.
What
But
happened to
yeah,
flip
it's
phones,
crazy.
huh?
It's crazy.
VHS, what's that? Oh no.
um, do you have a favorite scene from Trick or Treat? Because everybody, there's so many great scenes, and I love how all of the sequences. I mean, I call it rewatchability.
Mhm.
The older I get, the more emphasis when I'm watching movies on their rewatchability, especially Halloween
Yeah.
movies, which we watch a lot of. And if they're good, we're gonna rewatch them. But I always find new things, and I love how many different ways the different stories touch each other and kind of intersect in different fun ways.
Well,
Um,
I'm very
what's your
biased,
favorite?
and I'd say, well, I'll start by saying I'm very biased. So I'd say Trick or Treat is one of my favorite Halloween movies because have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Oh, yes. Nice. I love it.
So of course I have the bias with the multi-story line there.
Yes.
But as far as favorite scene, it was actually one of the deleted scenes because
Oh, okay.
uh, it just well, it didn't make it into the movie. But there's Charlie who ends up, covering Wilkinson's doorsteps in chocolate and blood. Let's just
Yes.
say he's just smashing all the jack-o'-lanterns early on, and he's supposed to get egged by Sam. But there's like
Oh,
this huge ultra wide shot where it's like almost the entire block. It's like uh there's just so much distance, and my teeny tiny 7-year-old arms couldn't, toss the egg that far, so they had to do a cut. And
mhm.
well, maybe that is the reason why they didn't keep it in, to not
Oh.
see the arc of the egg across the whole distance. But yeah, he eggs Charlie, flips him off, and then runs away. I had so much fun filming that.
That's great.
Yeah, I think you get to see that in the deleted scenes or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you that if you remembered any shooting any scenes that ultimately didn't make the theatrical cut.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's the one
That's
that that's like the only one that I remember, and I remember it because it's something I enjoyed filming so much.
I bet.
I get to what? I'm 7 years old. I get to flip someone off. Okay.
And the film is just loaded with that Halloween atmosphere that we love. Oh, I mean, overflowing with it. And I call it Hallosphere. And
Oh
you
yeah.
said earlier tonight that that was like it felt like that a little bit to you being 7 on set. Can you describe that a little bit of I mean, we always like talking to people where every day is Halloween, and there you are filming through Christmas, and
Oh yeah.
it's Hallosphere everywhere. I imagine. Was it as magical for you as it looks to us watching it?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, everyone was sort of like on board, and every
Mhm.
time we'd go to shoot, it was like in the dead of night pretty much. So
Yeah.
I'd, be like, oh, I get to stay up late. I get to pretend it's Halloween every day. So
Mhm.
ooh, let's go. And I think even at some point, I think I even uh no, I'm misremembering that. I could have sworn there was candy present at some point, but
Yeah.
you know, whether we were filming in and around, end of October or not, maybe that's when.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun just running around and doing what kids do on Halloween.
Yeah. I
But
bet.
yeah. I
And
think,
again,
oh yeah, I think I
yes.
even knocked on some trailer doors and was like trick or treat or something at some point. I think. Oh man, such memories from such a long time ago. Can't really keep them straight.
Have you had Sam come trick or treating to your house in the years since?
No, I haven't, which is actually kind of, well, I'm just wondering what the odds are at this point. The
Yeah.
odds are probably becoming more and more in favor of that.
Yeah. It's
So,
bound to
but as the
happen.
fan base grows, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And if someone resides in and around here where it was filmed, so yeah,
Yeah,
most likely.
it's definitely bound to happen, I would think. I'm surprised it hadn't yet, but and you've been to these conventions, so I know you've seen a little bit yourself. We go to a couple conventions every year, and we go and you see Sam walking around, a couple Sams everywhere, just like with Michael Myers and
Yeah.
Jason and Freddy. I mean, Sam
Last
is
couple
just as
conventions,
regular now.
yeah, the last couple conventions I saw was where there were cosplayers. I actually saw Sam as like the most cosplayed out of all the cosplayers. It
Yeah,
was like 3 Michael Myers, but then it was like 4 Sams. I'm like,
it's
what?
wild. It
Yeah, it
is.
was it's crazy just seeing how much it's really taken off. So
It really is, and I mean, I love seeing it. Like I said, I got that DVD in '09 as soon as it came out, and it's just been
wow.
amazing to watch it continue to grow and be sort of the secret thing that just every year it feels like more people find it and fall in love with it, and then they spread it word of mouth. And so I think, like you said, if there's gonna be a sequel, this might be the best time and that there's been, at least,
Oh yeah. Well,
to
hopefully we're
do
not
it.
waiting as long as like Top Gun for a sequel. That was,
Right.
a little bit brutal, but
Yeah, maybe a little bit sooner than
yeah,
that.
just
But um But so with the meeting the fans at these conventions, and what has been the wildest, craziest fan reaction you've encountered?
I think I saw a trio, or maybe it was 4 Sam cosplayers at once.
That's
Or like they
cool.
sort of trickled in and I sort of stopped them and said, "Hey, wait by my table at the convention." So I sort of stockpiled them up and then did like a group photo with them. I think this was um earlier this year or in like 2018, 2019, something like that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It was much more on the recent end of things. It might
That's
have been
cool.
this year though. There's so many convention memories. It's hard to like differentiate them,
Oh
like
yeah,
which
I'm
convention is
sure.
which. Yeah.
I'm sure, and a lot of fan interactions probably like that that
Oh
are
yeah.
are
Yeah, I always live
memorable.
for, group photos with the cosplayers. It's like they take it to a whole other level, like celebrating Sam as well as Trick or Treat. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely, and the movie itself, it celebrates the holiday, which is one of the things I love about it, and the magic of the holiday and those ancient traditions that we all have um, used to celebrate the holiday. Just you as just a movie fan, and I mean, clearly it seems like you had a good handle on what it was at the time, and even today. What do you think the appeal is to people like me, to these fans that you're meeting, that about Sam and about the just the movie as a whole? What do you think this appeal is that is keeping it growing? I mean, it's not even to say it's lasting. It's still growing. It's not even
Without a doubt,
reached
it's got to
its.
be the rewatchability that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, because I say that well, me being biased, Pulp Fiction also has a lot of
Yes.
rewatchability. So
Absolutely.
that's another reason why it's one of my favorite films. Um, and yes, as far as Halloween films, for that reason, the multiple storylines, seeing how they affect each other, all the
Yes.
subtleties, the slight, nuances, and like, oh yeah, this happened there, and like they switch to the next storyline, and you can see the kids running from, I think the initial like slice in the neck
Hmm.
at the beginning of the movie. It's like they're running by, so you know when this is, kind of like if you
Yep.
really, really pay attention, you can get like a chronological order of like the whole thing, which is really cool to me. Like all the
Yeah.
little hints here and there. Takes quite a few rewatches, but yeah, I've eventually got them all. So
Uh, I would probably agree. I think that might be the best, like you said, because it is like endless rewatchability, really. Like Pulp
yeah,
Fiction, like you said, you always are noticing new little details that link to things. I mean, there's
oh
some
yeah,
things you notice on the first view, like, oh, okay, there's that. But then even on the
there's
15th
also
view, you're noticing things that, oh wow, I can't believe I'm seeing that for the first time.
yeah, there's also the wardrobe continuity that was a big thing as
Oh
well,
yeah.
where there were 2 different orange jumpsuits, one with 1 patch, another one with 2 patches, because he gets shot by Krieg.
That's right.
So
Yes.
that's,
So
something to look forward to on
yet
a
another
rewatch.
detail to keep it. Yeah, see, there
Yeah.
just so many of those little touches that,
Mhm.
like you said, add to it.
Yeah.
And as we've talked about, Sam is everywhere. He's more popular than ever now. He's become a Halloween icon, a horror genre icon,
That's still so hard
and
to believe that it's grown so much.
well, that's what I want to ask is, I mean, how's that feel for you? I mean, you're still a young man, very early in your career,
Yeah.
and you've already played a character that is going to be, I feel confident saying this character is going to be around for longer than all of us. Like people are going to be talking about Sam in this movie and every
Wow.
Halloween, and if there's sequels and more Sam, then bring it on. That's just going to add to it. But even if not, I think this is the last 15 years have kind of proven this is a character that people just keep finding and responding to. So has is what do you think about that? At looking at it now after seeing that theatrical release 15
Yeah.
years after it was made.
Just seeing how it's grown off after all this time and how well it's received so widely as well.
Yeah,
It's awesome. It's really kind of surreal.
yeah,
It's one of those surreal experiences like, wait, what? And then I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really crazy to think about. It's hard to believe that it's gotten this big. So yeah, wow. It's definitely something I'm never gonna take for granted though. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Because it's in this surreal state, it's like I don't think I ever can
Yeah.
because it just seems so uh oh, surreal. There's that word again.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a different word to describe that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I imagine it probably is surreal for you to see and just to try to step back and think about and think about the fact that yeah, we might be doing this in 15 years on the 30th anniversary of the film and
Yeah.
you know talking about your memories then and who knows and but to hear your your point of view that you enjoyed it as much as you did when you were there
Oh
on the
yeah.
day and you appreciate it as a movie fan and just
Mm.
student of the craft you appreciate it on that level today and on top of all of it you've got this community now that you, it feels like from what you're telling me you're enjoying and embracing as much as we're
Yeah.
embracing you and enjoying what you did in this movie as well so
I'm really looking forward to going many more
yeah
conventions as the years unfold because
yeah
just that social interaction with people and just shaking their hands, looking them in
yes
the eye, and just seeing their excitement, that always makes my day.
yeah
And just anytime I can make their day, that makes my day even more. So it's just a feedback loop of good feelings. So
yeah absolutely, absolutely. We totally agree, and we agree, and hopefully we'll connect in person, maybe at one of those
yeah,
events one of these days. I'm sure we probably will at
yeah.
some point.
Yeah, March seems very busy for me, so I think I have like two, maybe three conventions then.
Nice.
So that that might be the next
Yep.
big thing. I think I might have something in February though, but I can't remember which one that is. I'll have to refer to my schedule.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm
Very busy, I'm sure.
oh hopefully not too busy. I have my birthday in February, so
Yeah. Well, happy early birthday. And I
thank
mean,
you.
again, you are, you know, as somebody who played Sam, the actor that played Sam, living Halloween every day today as you did on set, you know, handing out those Christmas treats and Halloween every day then. And so here you
Mm.
are, you're kind of living Halloween every day anyway. So
Yeah,
this has been just so awesome to get your whole origin story and where you're coming from with all this and some of your memories and yeah, I you have a standing open door invite anytime
cool.
you want to come back and talk more about this or whatever else you got going on. This has been
All right.
amazing, and I've had a blast.
Yeah, likewise. I really enjoyed this, and somehow it's actually lasted longer than an hour. Where'd the time go?
I know, I know. It flies by, and when we're talking about this stuff, like I mean, again, I could talk about that movie endlessly because it's just I love it so much, and like so many
Oh,
people, and there's just so much in there and packed into it, and so much love for the holiday, which you know it makes it really close to our heart, obviously.
yeah, and the fact that it's like about the holiday itself and
Yes,
like the ritual and the tradition rather than just sort of taking place around then,
absolutely.
it's just another level of like it's a bonus. It's a huge bonus. The fact that
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I know you are busy, and again, I can't thank you enough for hanging out for a little while with us this evening. This has been amazing, and we love the movie. We love Sam. Everybody does.
Well,
We
thank
look
you.
forward to many more rewatches over the years,
Mhm.
and it's great to hear that you're enjoying this this continuing rise of this character and this film and just this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes. Where it goes with the sequel, it goes from here. So
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have you back on to talk more about the sequel, one way or the other, once that gets moving. I mean, even if it's just get some of your input as the
um
original Sam and some thoughts on it once that
oh
starts coming out. I'd
my
love to talk more
speculation.
about that. Sure. Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
boy.
I'd love to once that gets going. But yeah, I like you. I'm just hoping that they can capture some of that same magic and present something that is just really special in the way that original movie is, because it
Yeah,
is definitely a special experience.
yeah, yeah, I can't wait. But yeah, I'd I'd love to talk more about it with once some more info comes
Yeah,
out about the sequel, of course, because
absolutely.
we only know that it's in development, and just nothing
Yes.
else. So
Yeah. And that could be in development for a couple years for all we know. Hopefully not, though. Let's fingers crossed that
well,
things
it
are going
really
to move.
depends. Like if it is in development for that long, it would be, I think, Mike trying to get it like
Just right.
so, yeah, just right. Like it's like the classic conundrum of like you tell an artist to paint a picture of this, or if you tell him to paint a masterpiece, he's never going to finish.
Yeah.
So
That's
it could be
yeah.
worth the wait.
That's there you go. That's very true. Very true. Awesome, man. Well, again, this has been great. I can't thank you enough for chatting with us today.
Well, thank you for suggesting it. It was quite fun.
And I know our audience is going to love it. And I know we just celebrated Halloween, but every day is Halloween here for
Yeah.
us. Every day is Halloween for you. So I'm just going to be the first to wish you a happy Halloween
Oh,
2023.
happy Halloween to you too, and all you watching.